Temporary placements plague the existence of our children. Systems surround them with ideas that their young minds cannot grasp, like, she birthed you, but didn't know how to love you, or your father was not yet a man, these children. Are the alternatives to abortion that my salary depends on. I am their therapist. God made it my life's work to excavate sorrows and help them build whole like building blocks, like Jenga. Sometimes our worlds crash down, but I thank God each day, because each day I catch their alligator-sized tears. I store them in jars like fireflies. I hope that one day I can mail them the sorry excuses for parents that left them behind. These children, they live in a world where we foster our children like we foster our dogs. We have holding cells DNA of deadbeat creators. We try to read the written chromosomes on the walls. Sometimes my master's level degree cannot make sense out of what doesn't make sense. These children, they are tried on like new shoes. If you don't like what you see, keep it moving. They're too often easy prey. They chameleon themselves into what you want them to be, just so that for once they can be normal. Like the neighborhood kids up the street. The ones that they have only known a few weeks. This is why in their adult life, a 1-month relationship can be deemed a success. Y'all, so many of these children were open wounds of broken promises and carry salt in their pockets so they won't forget what pain feels like. It has been their only friend, the only one to never turn its back on them like we do every day. I cannot take their crosses from them. These are the things they were given to bear. I can only help them exercise the positive they have: strength, resilience, life. Hope the muscles of their heart can someday entertain the thought of love. These children, I tell them about turtles, their armor-like shells, the jigsaw beauty in their backs, how strong those 5 senses are. I tell them about how mommy turtles bury their baby eggs in the sand and leave them behind. And how when that turtle is born, it opens its eyes, looks around, and heads straight for its home in the ocean. I tell them that their hearts will always know where their home is, that normal is a thing that does not exist. I tell them to be brave, be smart, and be the things that they are. And when someone accepts them for who they are, those are the only ones worth keeping. I tell these children daily, you child, are simply beautiful. My name is Marlanda Dekine. I'm the spoken word poet known as Sapient Soul. I'm a licensed social worker, and I work with children who may have severely experienced child abuse or neglect. And I also run Speaking Down Barriers, an organization that is transforming the way that we live together across our differences. I'm here today to speak with you about the transformative power of spoken word poetry. I believe that there are at least 4 things that just happened when you heard that poem. The first thing that I believe happened is that you saw me perform that poem. And what I mean by that is that you saw my body communicate that poem to you, whether it was my arms moving, the muscles of my face, my mouth, the way that I shape my mouth when words come out of it. And sometimes I get on my tippy toes. I don't know if I did that today, but there is a way that I'm using my body to communicate that poem. But more importantly than that, you saw the children that this poem is about. And I believe that that is a transformative thing. For many of us, we may not have thought about these children before. For some of us, we may be those children, and for some of us, we may have those children. And there's a way that stories like that can connect us in a way that we wouldn't have expected. The next thing that happened is you heard this poem. Now, I want you to understand, sound is a very, very powerful thing. When it comes out of my mouth, attaches itself to words, and it comes out into the air, it is electrifying the air all around you. Spoken word is rooted in the African oral tradition and the Black arts movement. There were entire histories of entire peoples passed down through the spoken word. That is how powerful that this thing is. And when you are hearing together in this space, it's creating a communal space, a community space that you're sharing. The third thing that I believe happened is your brain was processing this poem. What I mean by that is we come into this world, we are born, we have a blank slate. Our brain is tabula rasa. It means blank slate. And it's through relationships and experiences that our brains begin to make meaning of the world. So when you engage a spoken word poem that is often coming out of a marginalized or an oppressed experience, you are allowing yourself to hear into an experience that you might not have heard before. And you are therefore literally opening your mind when you hear what someone has to say through spoken word poetry. The fourth thing that I believe happened, and this is my most favorite, and it could be the therapist inside of me, is that you felt something. We walk through this world not feeling, often. And there is a way that spoken word poetry, even if it's done terribly, you will find yourself thinking, you will find yourself feeling. And before we can intellectualize and talk about how it may not be true or maybe the facts aren't all there, you begin to feel. And that feeling is so, so, so powerful. When we hold community dialogue sessions with Speaking Down Barriers, we are using transformative spoken word poetry for this very reason. It grounds us and allows us to enter into a room, to have very difficult dialogue, but to do it in a way that everyone can be heard. It's not about agreeing, but it's really about coming together and hearing. I wanted to ask you all to close your eyes, but you don't have to. I'm very particular about making people close their eyes in dark spaces, so don't do that if you're not comfortable with it. But if you were to close your eyes and you imagine that 3 people are sitting down to have a conversation, one of these people is an upper-class white woman, another is a lower-class white male, and the third is a middle-class black male who identifies as a black nationalist. And if you imagine the 3 of them going to sit at this table, and I walk into the room all proud, and I say, we're going to have some dialogue about white supremacy and racism. Many of us are going to think that turns into a train wreck, right? There is a power with spoken word poetry that allows individuals to hear outside of their boxes in a way that they can begin to connect much more stronger than they ever thought that they could. And that's the power of spoken word poetry. I tell these children about turtles, their armor-like shells, the jigsaw beauty in their backs, how strong those 5 senses are. I tell them about how mommy turtles bury their baby eggs in the sand and leave them behind. And how when that turtle is born, it opens its eyes, looks around, and heads straight for its home in the ocean. I tell them that their hearts will always know where their home is, that normal is a thing that does not exist. I tell them to be brave, be smart, and be the things that they are. And when someone accepts them for who they are, those are the only ones worth keeping. I tell these children daily, you are beautiful. And this poetry will grab you and it will work on you after you leave the room. Thank you.